if you were to make a Venn diagram for all the things we have different between us, if we were to make a Venn diagram, the one little sliver that overlaps, I think just in the middle is Brad Stevens. I think that's what it is.
Like, that's what
I think that's it. That's it. It's like, that's nothing else. It's you and I are like trying to make, if we went on a first date, we'd be like, so what are you into? And you'd say stuff and be like, no, or I guess sailing now. Cause I sail, but
it's sailing and you'd be like, where are you from? And I'd be like, Boston. And you'd be like, all right, well, the only thing we can talk about is Brad Stevens.
That's it. That's all we would talk. If we went on a first date, we talk about Brad Stevens for 4 hours. And
100%. And then it would end up in like an argument. Like it would end in a fight. You know,
it would end in a fight about like what he loves more, is it Indiana or Boston? And he kind of killed that. That's what Brad Stevens broke my heart. I'll be honest. Like when I woke up and saw the news, first of all, I had people like calling me, and it kind of broke at, I want to say like 7-ish a.m. And I had woken up, but I was slow to get out of bed. You know, I assume a lot of people are that way. You kind of wake up and just slowly.
Listen, I told you I got out of bed at noon the other day. So like you're talking to the right person on this.
So I was awake, but when the news broke, but I wasn't really out of bed yet. And I was just kind of like checking my phone and all that. And then all of a sudden a wave of people just start texting me, and I check Twitter, and it's just a nightmare situation in the mentions of people talking about Brad Stevens. And honestly, Charlotte, my first reaction is like, I don't want to revisit this again. I put this to bed because when Brad Stevens, when I was trying to meme him to Indiana, and boy, did I try. I gave it all I had. I've never memed so hard in my life.
Yeah, you memed for all you were worth.
Yeah, I want to retire from Twitter. Like that was the moment I think I was like, I think I'm done here. Like I gave it all I could. I came up a little short. The game has passed me by. So when I was trying to meme Brad Stevens to IU, and it looked like there might be a sliver of a chance because he wasn't denying it really, and was kind of being weird about, you know, how he was phrasing things when he would be asked about it. And then he does that press conference where he's like, everyone shut the hell up. I'm not going to Indiana. I am a masshole. And he just goes like completely the other way, where all he had to say was like, I'm not taking the job. Shut up. He was like, I love the Patriots. I love Dunkin' Donuts. I'm a mass. He literally called himself a masshole.
Like Casey Affleck and Ben Affleck are my literal brothers.
Yes. And I'm watching that, and I seriously was like, this dude's about to say my name because it's so personal. Like everything he's saying felt like a direct attack on me personally, that I was like, this hurts. And the point is, Charlotte, like when he said that, I was like, I have to be done. I have to just put all this to bed. I will never mention their name, Brad Stevens, again. I will never feel anything for this man ever again. That was devastating to me. And so when I woke up and I saw that Brad Stevens was stepping down as the coach, and some people were trying to like make me feel good because they're like, dude, you were kind of right that like he was gonna make a change, that he didn't want to be the. And I was like, I don't.
No, you weren't. You were.
Charlotte, they took it off the board in Vegas. What else? Do you want?
But oh my God, we are not doing it again.
No.
However, I did think to myself, and don't let this go to your head, like that comment from Mrs. What was her name? Mrs. Brewer. Who said you look good with the new haircut.
Brewer.
Yeah, you got a hat on now.
DM's still open.
She can't tell you have a hat on. You ruined it.
That's true.
Where was I? Oh, don't let this go to your head. My first thought was, okay, well, Mark was right. There was a change.
There was a change.
But then I tweeted, it's like Club Trillion said all along. Brad Stevens to IU, which is part of our new segment. Me reading my tweets aloud. It all comes full circle. So yeah, as I was getting, because our mutual friend Dan Katz FaceTimed me twice because I declined. He calls me, and like I'm in bed, I'm laying in bed, and I get a FaceTime from Dan Katz, and I say to myself, this can't be good. Like no, I'm not interested. Like part of my mind was going like, he's on the air, and I didn't know Brad Stevens. I didn't know that Brad Stevens was. I thought he was going to call me about LeBron. I thought he was going to call me and be like, you're a LeBron guy, which I'm not really. I just think LeBron's like talented, but also like him quitting on his team is bullshit, and I didn't love that. But we can talk about that too.
We'll talk about that. But I thought that's what in my mind, Dan was calling me because he's live on the air. He wants me to defend LeBron, and I was like, I literally just woke up. I can't do this, so I declined it. And then 5 minutes later, he calls me again, and I'm like, all right, I better answer this. And he wanted to just talk about Stevens, and he was killing me. And he's like, Brad Stevens would rather just retire, would rather not coach at all than coach at Indiana for $7 million a year, and on and on and on. And then on the flip side, some people were trying to spin it as though I was kind of right, because it was like, you read the tea leaves that Brad Stevens was not exactly happy as his job, like that he would shake it up, and maybe, and it does, I will say, Charlotte, it does leave the door open. As much as people in the NBA want to roll their eyes at it, it does leave the door open for Brad Stevens to come back to college. I think Indiana's going to put it to bed.
Oh my God, how does it not?
How does it not? Not now. Not now. I'm saying
Brad Stevens is now Danny Ainge, so he gets he can be the puppet master. He doesn't have to be one of the puppets.
No. I'm going to tell you how, because
please.
This is not coaching. Like, his job. So the whole reason people would say Brad Stevens doesn't want to go back to college is because they said he hated recruiting. He hated like dealing with like all of that. What he wanted to do was just coach and have relationships and make guys better players. So if that was your point of view of why he didn't want to go to college,
that's
his job now is, that's what his job now is. He's not going to coach anybody. He's not going to foster relationships. He's going to now, like, he looks at spreadsheets and say, we're paying Kemba Walker how many million and for how many years? Like, how do we get under the cap, but also luxury tax? And like, that's his job. And this is a guy who grew up and like, he grew up like wanting to, like, his start at Butler, what got him going at Butler was like finding diamonds in the rough. Like Matt Howards of the world and Ronald Noreds of the world. And like taking guys like that and building relationships, going to the Final Four with them. Like that was what he loved about the job. And now he's not going to do that. So the reason it opens the door is that I'm not saying now, I'm saying like fast forward 4 or 5 years and Brad Stevens is like, what the hell am I doing? This isn't me. I don't want to like.
So you're playing the super long game here.
Yes. But I'm not saying go back to IU. I'm not going to meme him back to IU. I'm saying it leaves the door open for him to go back to college. Such a liar.
In 5 years, you're going to set a calendar reminder right after the show and set it for 5 years from now. And it'll be like, start memeing Brad Stevens. You are so 100% going to do
I'm out of the game, Charlotte. I'm done.
I'm going to be helping you from our studio show in, as the highest paid talent at Fox Sports.
Yeah. We've taken over Skip and Shannon. And
the network is in disarray and it's the apocalypse. No, but look, okay. So, all right, fine. You could be potentially right there. However, I would argue that part of the role of a GM of like making these personnel decisions is that to a degree where he also doesn't have to like run practice. I would argue he's like sick of running practice. Like
This is where I think you and I can shine, and we could have a show that's not Titus and Tate.
All right, so what?
The Armchair Psychology, because we did this with Aaron Rodgers last week of trying to figure out, is he happy? Is he going to retire?
Well, that's what I the one note I wrote down. We both said that we before we hopped on here, we were like, I have no notes. Do you have any notes? And it was like, no. And it was like, this will be a dynamite show. Perfect. The one note I have is in all caps. Sorry. Coach K is in all lowercase. And then in all caps underneath that, it says, we just talked about how he won't retire. So like, I think because when we were talking about Aaron Rodgers and Roy Williams being like, hey, maybe I can just be happy. And we're like, but the Coach K's of the world just keep on coaching.
Yes.
Coach K isn't coaching. Yep. Brad Stevens, a guy who's like, oh, I famously love to coach. Like Brad Stevens is one of those guys who's just like the armchair psychology of him is that he is a nice guy who loves to coach.
Yes.
And like, maybe we were wrong.
Maybe we were wrong the whole time.
What if we were wrong?
Maybe. What if? Not you and I.
I mean, we're never wrong.
Not you. We're never wrong. But
we're never
the world at large was wrong about Brad Stevens. No, this is I called my dad immediately because as backstory, in all honesty, my family has known Brad Stevens forever, and I don't say that to like name drop, but like it's to give you context. I wasn't just like a guy that like wanted to meet Brad home. Like part of it was. I've known him forever.
A personal, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't talk to the guy. I don't talk to him anymore. It's not like I call Brad Stevens every Tuesday and ask him how he's doing.
But he never reached out to you when you were memeing him back to IU.
No. But if
that's funny to me, he was probably like, so that press conference was for you. He was probably,
but that's what
Mark.
Yeah, when I mentioned earlier that I expected him to say my name, that sounded very egotistical, but like Brad knows me and I know him. So like there was like a small sliver that'd be like, so please, for the love of God, Titus, stop memeing. Right. I didn't actually expect it to happen, but the road he was going down, I was like, oh no, Brad, this is like he's coming for my heart right now. So I called my dad because, my dad has known Brad my dad used to watch Brad Stevens play in high school when he was at Zionsville High School. And so I was just like, what do you think's going on here, Dad? Because I really, part of like thinking Brad would go back to IU was the draw home. It was it's where he's from. And part of my armchair psychology with that was thinking the pandemic, because I do want to talk to you about this a little bit. Like the pandemic, I think has played a role in people, all of us, me, everyone listening, Coach K, Brad Stevens, Roy. I really do think it served as an opportunity for people to like stop and think about like what matters in your life.
Totally.
People you're spending time with, what you're spending time doing. Existential crisis might start seeping in a little bit and like, oh my God, like what is this? What I want to do? Whatever. So I thought Brad might feel the draw back home. Ultimately, he did not. But then some of the narrative was like, he was the head coach of the Boston Celtics. No one in their right mind would voluntarily give that job up. Like that is the job. It's that and the Lakers. Those are the two most, prestigious jobs in basketball. No one would voluntarily step down from that. And then here he is stepping down from that. And so I called my dad and I'm just like, what do you think's going on? And not that we need to hash out what my dad's conversation was, but that's where my mind went, was like trying to play the armchair psychology.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to do that with you, Charlotte, of like because this sort of is unprecedented to have a guy do this, that to be in a position that everyone does believe that this is the pinnacle of the profession that he's in.
Yeah.
And now he's going to have like, I guess, more control over the team, but it's different. It's because people don't know who the GM of every team is, but I guess they don't know who the coach, but you know what I'm saying? Like the coach
is visible.
If you're the basketball guy and you live and breathe the sport, no one is growing up saying like, I want to be the GM of a team someday. You're like, I want to be a coach or I want to be a player. Those are the two things I want to do. And a GM you just kind of fall into, or the president of operations, whatever the title is. So yeah, I'm curious. What do you think's going on here?
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I was thinking before we hopped on here that the reason I love sports. Also, I got into a fight with someone at a birthday party about this weekend, and it was someone I don't know. So I think that my reentry into society is going very well. He was like, he was, it was a bunch of people who were not in sports, and he was like, I said something about, somehow we got to where he was like, well, the asshole fans, which is funny because I'm about to say the asshole fans a little bit later in the show, but I got very defensive. I was like, no, man, like, get out of here with that. I was like, don't do this. I was like, what I admire so much, and this is coming back around to Brad Stevens, I promise. I was like, what I admire so much about sports fans is this ability to care so much about something that doesn't even know you exist. Like the guy in the Eagles sweatshirt, in Mayor of Easttown, who doesn't know who the team doesn't know he exists.
Right.
But he cares so much about that team. And it reminds him of watching games with his dad or watching games with his daughter, or like, it is a place. And I think that sports are huge for this, for people who have grown up feeling like you're not allowed to have emotions, or you can't really express yourself. Like if it's a sports team, you can yell at the TV. Like, it is still manly to cry when your team finally wins the championship. Like, I think there's a lot of misplaced. So I go on this rant at a birthday party. Like, I'm like, I was a Moscow, like a few wines and a Moscow Mule in. And I was like, no, do not, like, honor the fans. I was like, this is my entire career. And then he stops and he was like, you missed one very important thing about sports. And I was like, oh, did I? I was like, oh, please tell me. And he was like, the narrative and the storytelling. And I was like, I'm a writer. Are you kidding me? Like, that's my entire, like, so I think of that sort of emotion and passion, and it's the feelings and the psychology that make me love this, like it's even the Nick Saban's daughter's wedding hashtag deep dives where I'm like, what, like, I wanted to ask you, like, what would it be like asking Nick Saban for his daughter's hand? It's that kind of thing that really I think we talked about that and like gets me going. And I think that Brad Stevens is such an unbelievably interesting example of this, especially from your and my perspectives, where like, him, what kind of place he comes from. I know what kind of place he ended up in.
Yeah.
Like he is in Boston. And to me, to choose, like, Boston is such a radically different place. And yet I think thinks of itself as a place that has the same sort of Midwestern values. It's like what we were talking about when we were talking about the difference between nice and kind. And like LA is nice, but like the East Coast could maybe be kind because like you'll be a dick about it, but like I'll help you, tow your car wherever you need me. Like, you know what I mean? And so I think that there's like a Midwestern sort of like down homeness that Boston fancies itself as, that either Brad feels comfortable in this is wild speculation. Like, I don't know, but for him I think that the coaching in the pandemic wore him down. Like I've seen reports about that. And to me, it's not necessarily a stepping back from the biggest job. To me, it's like a more powerful version of that job, because that whoever he brings in, he's going to be like, hey man, coach him this way. Like he gets to be the guy behind the curtain without having to deal. It would be like if you and I could finally delete our social media accounts, but like still run this show, or like, you know what I mean? Like the freedom that must come with not having a camera on your face every second of every game. And I just talked for a long time and I don't know how it all related.
No, I think it's a great point that there's definitely, as much as we're joking about the armchair psychology and trying to assign meaning to stuff where there might not actually be meaning. I don't know how you can look at this and not think that there's something to that there was some sort of, I mean, he said as much as you said, that seems to be what people are saying, is that the bubble, something about the bubble and the pandemic and all of it just made him reassess like what he wants to. I still don't think he wants to be this long. I don't think this is a long-term answer. I don't see how, I don't know. I could be wrong, but like, I still feel like this, what I know about Brad Stevens, this job is not going to scratch the itch in the way that he wants it. But I think what it will do is temporarily pull him back from some madness that he was experiencing as the head coach of the Boston Celtics during a pandemic. Just all of the whole scene with the Kyrie Irving element of this, and Jaylen Brown's out, and the Indiana rumors start swirling. And then, which whether, I was memeing them, but it was a real thing. I mean, they offered him the job and he considered it for a day or two.
There were
and then
planes flying back and forth.
Yeah, they were playing. So like he had to address that, and he thought about it. And I do think by the way, my narrative that I'm going with is that he took the Indiana offer, used it as leverage, talked it out with Danny Ainge, because this wasn't a spur of the moment thing. Charlotte.
I know.
It's not like they lost to the Nets last night and then they woke up, like in the locker room last night, Danny and Brad were like, "Hey, what if I quit and then you become me?"
Right.
Like they had hashed this out for a while. So and I think that explains sort of Brad's the whole that makes the attitude around the Indiana that week where he was he weighing the job, but not really. And then he said he wasn't offered the job, but you're like, what do you mean you weren't offered the job? Like, you were obviously offered the job. That's what makes sense to me, was that he, not that he, I don't know, that just that, like, I think sometime either then or even before then, this sort of plan had been put in place that maybe this would be Brad's last year as the coach, but he's still going to stay in Boston. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy, because like this really is unique, and that a guy would step back, and I don't know if it's a long-term answer for him, but the madness had to wear on him. I don't know.
Hey pals, thanks for watching the People's Sports Podcast YouTube channel. For more of mine and Mark's very weird rabbit holes, stick around, watch more. You can subscribe, smash that subscribe button. You know you want to. We're going to give you all the weird stuff we possibly can.